What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right. So it was a few days after the debacle that was the first presidential debate between former President Donald Trump and current President Joe Biden that Biden did an interview with a Philadelphia radio host, which was supposed to reassure voters and Americans that Biden is mentally fit and is capable of serving another term as president. That interview did anything but that. It was arguably, I think most would say it was, an even bigger disaster than his debate performance. In the interview, he referred to himself as the first black female president. He called himself the first, I think it was the first Delawarean elected president of Delaware as a kid, whatever that means. He talked a lot of other gibberish and nonsensical rantings, um, reinforcing the image of a man that at age 81 is just too old to serve another term as president. What makes this even worse is that the radio host that interviewed him, Andrea Lawful Sanders, the host of The Source on WRD in Philadelphia, said that Biden officials had provided her with a list of 8 questions ahead of the interview in advance. She told Victoria Blackwell, the host of First of All on CNN, quote, "The questions were sent to me for approval. Asked if it was the White House that had sent the questions to her in advance, she said it was. I got several questions, 8 of them, and the 4 that were chosen were the ones that I approved." So what this means is that Biden and his staffers or handlers, how you want to call them, I'd rather say caretakers at this point, they prepped him on this. He knew what these questions were. He knew there was going to be 8 possible questions asked of him. 4 of them were going to be asked. Of the possible 8, she could choose which one of the 8 to ask him. So that's a common practice. Oftentimes, most of the times, when radio hosts do interviews, the interviewee and his handlers or her handlers know the questions in advance. Very, very seldom do notable figures or public figures do radio interviews or any type of interview, television interview, whatever, online interviews, podcast interviews. They usually know the questions in advance, or they at least have an idea about what's going to be asked, because you don't want to be embarrassed. But despite the fact that he went through practice, and I'm pretty sure that he knew what was going to be asked, he still blew it. And at this point, as I said before, I don't know what else to tell people. I'm not telling you to vote for Trump. Just sit this one out. If somehow Biden still wins, I mean, so be it. You don't have to vote for this man. Look, I already was going to vote for him, even if he had the mental acuity of a 60-year-old. At this point, I'm not voting for him. Period. And I'm not voting for Trump. Considering voting for RFK Jr., maybe one other third-party candidates, but you don't have to vote, man. That's the beauty of this so-called democracy. We really used to be a republic. Now I think we're a plutocracy, but whatever the case may be, corporate dictatorship, whatever you want to call us, you don't have to vote. So I, in good conscience, cannot vote for a man that I suspect has at least mild dementia. Can't do it. Can't do it. And to be honest with you, it's very irresponsible of the Democratic Party for them to be doing this. I mean, didn't they do this a couple times before? I mean, like I said, Reagan was starting to get a little sketchy, but he was on his way out the door. When you think about it, the Democratic Party has done this crap before, or at least I should say, Democratic presidents. Number one, the first guy that comes to mind, Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson had a long history of hypertension. Long history of hypertension. The man had a stroke when he was just 39, 40 years of age. He had a small stroke that caused him to lose feeling in one of his hands and to lose some sight out of one of his eyes. He had numerous TIAs, more than likely transient ischemic attacks, which is a precursor to a stroke, oftentimes a big one, while he was president. When he was going across the country, campaigning for the League of Nations in the fall of 1919, he had a big, well, I shouldn't say a big, but he had a significant TIA where he temporarily lost control of speech, crisscrossing the country, I think, on train, backward train, speaking to different voters, trying to push the League of Nations. Then October 3rd, 1919, I believe it was, he suffered a massive stroke, which nearly killed him. He should have resigned from office. But the party, the Democratic Party, and I guess Wilson and his closest handlers, didn't think that the vice president at the time, who I think his name was, oh man, I'm having a brain fart. Was it Thomas Marshall? I think it was Thomas Marshall was the vice president. He was not presidential material. So basically, Woodrow Wilson, but more or less his doctor and his wife, basically ran the executive branch for the last 2 years, or at least a year and a half of his presidency. Then you have FDR. By 1944, FDR was a dying man. FDR had congestive heart failure, probably had some mild cognitive impairment, a lot of different other health issues going on with him. He should not have ran for a fourth term, but selfishly, he ran for another term while he was dying, which was a closely guarded secret. As a matter of fact, he died just 82 days after being inaugurated for his fourth term. So we've seen this before. Those instances is what led to the passage, I think it was 1967 of the 25th Amendment, which is if a president is incapable of performing his duties or is temporarily unable to perform his duties, then the vice president, either temporarily or permanently, pending that president's departure from office, becomes president. Because Biden is just whatever, man. I've gone long enough in this video. Tell me what you guys think.